Hello and welcome to this week's Livecast. I'm Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and I'll be here for the next probably 20 to 30 minutes, a shorter Livecast today, to just hang out with you, to share some Stonemaier Games news, to discuss random topics, and of course, as always, to answer any questions that you have. I hope you're all doing well. If you're in the U.S., it's Thanksgiving week, and I hope you are celebrating Thanksgiving in the way that you like to celebrate Thanksgiving. I, as you can tell, am in a different setting than normal. I am visiting with some family this week to celebrate Thanksgiving with them. So I tried to frame this so I have a nice warm fire behind me, nice little cozy look. This isn't a backdrop. This is a real fire that's right behind me. And it feels really nice on this cold day. Yeah, I hope you all are doing well. I've been working on more Vantage stuff. That's my main Stonemaier Games update this week. We'll have a newsletter next week with our annual demographic survey, but most of my week over the last couple of days, most of my work over the last couple of days has been on Vantage proofreading. We're getting really close to going to print on Vantage, but there are a few some proofreading things that we need to iron out to try to catch as many things as possible in this game with many words and many cards before we go to print. So just trying to look through them multiple times to make sure we can catch everything that we can. Yeah. Nicole says the fire goes well with her crackling sound that she has on her computer. Yeah, what else is going on today? I have a few games that I brought home for Thanksgiving, so I thought I'd share them. One we picked up in Japan. This is Capybara and Capybara, and it's in Japanese, and so I had to print out some English rules. But it looks like a nice, simple, cute card game. So that's one of the games I brought home. I brought home Flip 7, a push your luck card game, another card game that I've enjoyed a few plays of so far. Nice push your luck game. And I also brought home what I'm viewing as this year's Blob Party, one of my favorite party games of all time, Blob Party, Caution Signs. I've had a lot of fun with Caution Signs so far, and so I thought I'd have fun playing this with my nieces and nephews. And we came back we traveled a little bit earlier than we expected, and I got to see my brother and his family. He has 4 little kids, and we played Ticket to Ride Ghost Train with them last night for the first time, kind of a distilled version of Ticket to Ride, and had a great time playing that with them. So I'm looking forward to seeing my sister's kids for the rest of the week, and we'll hopefully play some of these games with them and some games with my mom too, who loves games. But Jeff has a very nice comment here. He says, 2024 has been his best gaming year ever. Most new games, but more importantly, made some outstanding new friends, and much of it is due to my Board Game Arena invitation. A sincere thanks to you. Thank you, Jeff. And the same goes to you. I've loved playing games with you on Board Game Arena. For those of you who don't know, people gather on Board Game Arena every 2 weeks to play games on Wednesday night. We play at around 7 o'clock St. Louis time. And if you're ever interested in joining that, it really is it's a small group, but it's a very welcoming group. And we play a variety of games, and you're never expected to show up. There are certainly weeks when I can't show up. And so there are other people that play games instead. And yeah, it's just been a lot of fun. So if you're ever interested in joining that on occasion, what's the best way to do it? I think the best way to do it is to post in the Stonemaier Games Discord channel. It's a different Discord server, but that's a good place to post that you're interested, and I can share the link to this other channel. In fact, the link might still be in there somewhere, but I can share whatever the current link is to this other Board Game Arena bi-weekly game night. So thanks, Jeff, for saying that. In fact, related to Board Game Arena, Nate says some fun expansions released on Board Game Arena, Ark Nova Marine Worlds, and the second 4 Shuffle expansion. Ooh, I've been looking forward to playing the new 4 Shuffle stuff. I have ordered at least one of the expansions to play on the tabletop, and I'm waiting for that to arrive. That's one where I know that I want to play it, and I know that I have it coming, that I lean towards playing it in person before Board Game Arena for the first time, but we'll see if I cave about that. Let's see. Chad says he's in the process of switching email addresses from a 20-plus-year-old Yahoo email to 2 new Gmail addresses. Such a process. Have you ever switched emails? I have not switched. Well, I've had the same Gmail address, my personal Gmail address, for a long time. I think before that, probably had AOL for a while, things like that. But in my entire adult life, I've had the same Gmail address. I have added some work email addresses during that time. And actually, one of the switches that I've made over the last couple of years is, so Garrett, I'm sorry, Chad, I have done this. I was using my personal Gmail for everything for a long time. And then eventually I switched to a Stonemaier Games email, but I kind of half-heartedly switched. I was still using the other one a lot. And now I have officially switched. I think it's much better and more secure to have everything on my work email if it's a work conversation. So I have tried to make that transition and ask people politely when they email me at the other address to switch over to the Stonemaier address. This says, have I ever dabbled in making RPG tabletop role-playing game systems? It's an interesting question. So kind of. So Vantage is its own system, but it is a wide open, it's a wide open world where you can make a vast variety of choices and you have a character that you are building and developing as you play the game. So I did not intentionally design Vantage as an RPG system, partially because I know very little about role-playing games. I haven't played many of them at all, which I think was actually an asset while designing Vantage. I wasn't building off existing existing RPG systems. I was creating my own system. So I'm curious when people play Vantage if they will view it as a role-playing, a tabletop role-playing game. Yeah, so I'm curious about that. So I may have designed one already through Vantage, or I may not have, depending on how people perceive it, is one way to put it. Eric says he finally got Stamp Swap to the table last week. I was pleasantly surprised. I bought it with no knowledge, but got it into free shipping, and it was totally enjoyable. I'm glad to hear that, Eric. I really am happy to hear that, that you enjoyed your first play of Stamp Swap. It's a game that I certainly would have brought home, but we flew to visit my family, and so we had limited packing space to bring games along with us. And I had a comment about that. Oh, I wanted to mention one of my blog posts, my videos recently, a blog post on Monday about how it's kind of our tradition at Stonemaier Games that we don't do a special Black Friday week sale. We try to not do anything this week in that way because we want to celebrate and support local retailers in particular, who this is a major business week for them. So yeah, so the post was kind of about that, about celebrating and supporting local retailers this week instead of doing a special sale on the Stonemaier Games web store. We do have, basically, I didn't change anything on our web store this week. Things that there are discounts on our web store, but they've been there for months. We're not doing a special sale for Black Friday or Black Friday week this week. My mom popped in to say that, so my mom is in the other room here, but she says that my nieces and nephew, James and Aaron, and my niece, Anna, are watching this live stream right now. So hi, Anna. Hi, James. Hi, Aaron. I look forward to seeing you all later today. Oh, Ian echoes Jeff's compliment about the Board Game Arena game night. He says, I agree with Jeff. The Board Game Arena night has brought some really good gaming friends online. He reached 800 total plays for the year. That's quite a bit. And third play of Windmill Valley. That's cool. Yeah, that's on my short list of games that I have been wanting to play, like 2024 releases or widespread releases that I haven't gotten to play at Windmill Valley, but I'm hoping to by the end of the year. I had one other thing to say about that, but now I'm blanking on what I was going to say about board game. Oh, yeah. Oh, I was going to give a little teaser that just yesterday, I heard from Board Game Arena about a specific game that I've been wanting to put on Board Game Arena, and they found a developer for it. So I can't say what the game is, but I can say that a Stonemaier Games game that is not currently on Board Game Arena will be coming to Board Game Arena. Probably, they usually take around a year to add new games to their system. So maybe in about a year from now, you'll see this game that I'm excited to appear on their system. Let's see, just scrolling down, looking for, I see some comments about games that people are playing. Here's a question from Josh. Josh says, early in your design process, were you ever afraid that some of the games you were working on were too much like games that were already published? You know, I'm always a little bit afraid of this. I'm guessing I'm not alone in this with designers, Josh, where I put a lot of time and energy and love into the games that I design. And even early on, I try to be aware of what's out there, games that already exist. And I try to talk. I don't always talk specifically about what we're making, but I talk. And if you follow my YouTube channel, I often refer to things that I'm working on at the time, in the hopes that those conversations, kind of being open about that, will increase the potential that someone might say, "Oh, that game already exists," or "A game already exists with that exact mechanism," or "Here are games that exist in that genre," so I can look at those games and see if they already exist. But in general, I try to stay really on top of what people are already designing. My greater fear, really, in that realm is that someone else is working on something that is very similar to what I'm working on, and that we might reveal it at around the same time, or they might reveal it. I think in the end, though, there are a wide variety of games, and a lot of them there's a lot of overlap in mechanisms between games. But for any game that you've put in a lot of work to create, the odds are that it is exactly like something that already exists or that someone else is working on, I think is pretty low, maybe even incredibly low. So I find solace in that, I find solace in that. Zoctal says, it might be too of an economic question. That's okay. How do you handle the financial aspects of paying a designer? Do they get a flat sum, royalties, or a combination of both? I try to be very public about this. We have an article on our website on stonemeiergames.com. I believe it's, if you search for like designer contracts or game design contracts, you can see generally what our game design contracts look like. And our method is that when we sign a new game, we pay a $10,000 advance against royalties. And what that means is that eventually, when we start paying designers royalties on revenue for all revenue received for that game, that there has to be $10,000 of revenue before the designer starts making more money off of the royalties, which generally they do. We always try to get to that point where they do. The designers earn a royalty based on revenue received. So that means if we receive $20 from a distributor for a game, the designer gets a percentage of that. And that same percentage is applied if we sell the same game for $50 on our web store. The designer gets the same percentage of that, but a higher amount, because $50 is more than $20. That's how our royalty system works. I would say that is fairly common. Some publishers use a royalty on profit, which I don't recommend that in general, because there are lots of ways that publishers, intentionally or not, can manipulate profit. Because profit is your revenue minus expenses. So I think it's much easier to calculate and much more transparent and much less easily manipulated if you just base the royalty on revenue instead of profit. Ian says, I believe you're vegan. I'm not vegan. I love cheese. I love butter. I'm pescatarian. I primarily eat vegetarian, but I do eat fish on occasion. In fact, just last night, my brother made a delicious blue cheese and shrimp dish, which I eat because I'm pescatarian. So Ian says, what's up for dinner tomorrow for you and yours? Enjoy regardless of what it is. So some members of my family will be eating turkey tomorrow for Thanksgiving. I will be eating, in fact, I think I'll be helping my mom make a mushroom, what does she call it? It's like Mom, what do you call the mushroom thing that we're eating tomorrow? Wellington, a mushroom Wellington, it's like this puff pastry with a mushroom and often maybe a walnut or pecan mixture in the middle. It's really delicious. Yeah, so that's what we're eating tomorrow. What about anyone else who's watching this? If you celebrate Thanksgiving, what is a dish that you look forward to seeing on the table tomorrow? This mushroom dish is one that I really enjoy with the puff pastry, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'm going to look at my general list of blog topics and video topics to see if there's anything that I want to throw out there today. I did have a topic that I'm excited about. Oh, I filmed a few videos right before I left. I'm looking for any topics that I have coming up. So I did a blog post maybe a week or so ago about what was it about? It was about kind of I don't want to say there's a spin-off topic that I want to cover on this, but it was about the idea that over 60% of games played in the digital space are games that were released over 7 years ago. And part of that topic, a spin-off part of the topic, was about lifestyle games that maybe it's not the only game that you play, but a game that you play and have played for a long time. And I want to think about that topic, not in terms of publishing at Stonemaier Games, but I want to write about that topic, about the idea of lifestyle games. I think some people, for example, have made Wingspan a lifestyle game, or they've made Scythe a lifestyle game where they play that game a lot. They go really, really deep into that game. And I think that's fascinating. I think maybe it happens a little bit more in the digital space, but I think it also happens in the tabletop space. So I want to explore that. So I want to see, do you have what you would consider a lifestyle game, one that you've played for a long time, many, many games, and maybe you come and go from that game a little bit. I think it's okay to get tired of a certain game if you play it that much. But do you have a lifestyle game? The other thing that came up on the blog last week was we have decided to go on I think last week I talked about the BGG at sea, the idea of going on a cruise ship and playing games on that cruise ship. And so this is a convention that Board Game Geek hosts on a cruise ship a few times a year. And we are going to one that goes to Norway. It starts in the UK and it goes to Norway next summer. We've made a deposit for it. So I would say we're 99% sure that we're going on this cruise. Or on the sea days for this cruise, we'll be playing games in a conference room that's rented or that's reserved by Board Game Geek for that use. 24/7 gaming in this room, and then we'll stop at little places along in Norway along the way, and hopefully see some amazing local sights and sounds and people and food, culture, all that stuff in Norway along these 4 stops. So if you are looking for an adventure next summer, I am completely unaffiliated with Board Game Geek. This is the personal choice that I made with Megan to do something for fun, go to a new place and play games with some people that we wouldn't normally see at Geekway to the West, our convention here in St. Louis. So that's what we're doing next summer. So that's BGG at Sea in Norway. Take a look if you're looking for an adventure next summer. Jeff says he just got his order for the Wingspan or the Wormspan eggs, the new stone Wormspan eggs and the pins. He says his eldest will love them for Christmas. That's great. Thanks for getting those, Jeff. It's been fun to see people have their eggs and new enamel pins arrive. Let's see. Chad mentioned, so one of the games that I played in the last week is Unconscious Mind. My friend Chance came over and taught the game and played the game with, it's a pretty heavy game, with Megan and I on Saturday. It took around 4 hours for us to play a 3-player game, partially because it was a learning game. And Chad says he saw the favorite mechanisms for Unconscious Mind. Now knowing his weight preferences, I was kind of sad to see how heavy and mechanism packed it was after I kickstarted it. Is it too heavy for you to keep? I don't actually have a copy. I was playing Chance's copy, and I would say it is a really heavy game, Chad. I agree. There's a lot going on in it. I was able to, I don't know. For me, I think it's probably too heavy for it to be a game that I return to on a regular basis. But I'm very glad that I played it because it has some really, really cool mechanisms that I mentioned in this video a couple days ago. Yes, I'm really glad that I played it. I don't know if it's one that I'll play all that often, but I'm happy to have played Unconscious Mind. I had a video about that come out on Tuesday. That was yesterday. My Unconscious Mind video came out then. And then I did a video about caution signs, actually. That'll come out this Friday. Yeah. We also had a game night. We had a game night last Thursday too, actually, where we played Can't Stop. I taught diatoms. Played that again. Delightful play. Two delightful plays of that so far. And we also played Circus Flocati, which is a game that it's one of the, every now and then I play a game that I played a long time ago and hadn't filmed a video for. And so I filmed a video for Circus Flocati that'll come out later next year. Socktal asked me to pick a favorite niece or nephew. Oh, they're all my favorites. I can't pick a favorite niece or nephew. Let's see. Oh, Nicole also received They're stone jade eggs. They're stone eggs that are made to look like jade, and the pins. Thank you, Nicole, for saying this. Both have exceeded their expectations and a real call out to the vivid, gorgeous, large pin art. I will give a shout out to my coworkers for making the pins really, really beautiful. They I knew nothing about enamel pins, and I made what I thought were beautiful pins, and they were like, I think we can make them better. And they made them much more vibrant in terms of the colors, and that's the final version that you see here. Oh, cool. Aaron introduced his dad and brother to Apiary last night. We all scored low, but had a good time. Love the theme. That's awesome. Thanks for playing Apiary. Yeah, Apiary is widely available now, and the expansion is also widely available in case anyone else hasn't discovered this wonderful game yet, designed by Connie Vogelman. Oh, Chad says he just got around to finishing Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Made me realize how important it is to finish a game with an exciting bang. How do you design with an exciting end of a board game in mind? That is a fun question. That's actually one, I believe I have a video about that question coming out later this year with games with, how do I end it? I do have a video coming out about this, Chad, about this topic of ending with a momentous moment in a game, ending with a climax. I think that's what the video is called. So I have a video about that coming out soon where I explore that topic, how to end in a way that is big and memorable. So Chad, I don't have a specific answer for you yet, but the video is coming. But I did think about it, just this topic the other day when we went to a fairly fancy restaurant in St. Louis, a restaurant called Mainlander. Really, really great restaurant. I highly recommend checking out Mainlander if you're ever in St. Louis and you are up for a pretty fancy meal. And I think that the beginnings and the endings of things in general matter a lot. Like they matter almost more than what's in the middle. And you're talking about the ending here, Chad. And the thing that I realized about Mainlander, two things they did that I think were really impactful about the beginning and the end. At the beginning, the moment we walked in the door, we were greeted with a plum. And the moment we sat down, they delivered two little warm drinks to us. It was a cold day, and they delivered these kind of like mini hot toddies, if you're familiar with that drink. Like the second we sat down almost. So right away, we were greeted to this little thing. So even though the food didn't come until a little bit later, right away, we had this really warm welcome in multiple ways. And then at the end of the meal, this is the type of restaurant where you give them your credit card in advance. And I think one of the greatest friction points at restaurants is when you are ready to end the meal, you're ready to go, but the check hasn't come, and you have to like flag down the server for the check, and they have to bring the check, and there's the whole exchange with the check. They have to take the check away, and they have to run the bill. And so I love this system at Mainlander. Other restaurants have it too, where when you sign up for a reservation, you give them your credit card, and that is just taken care of. When you're ready to leave, you leave. You're done. The credit card is taken care of. The tip is already on the card. All that stuff is already taken care of. It makes the ending of leaving a place like Mainlander really, really nice. So yeah, Chad, a different way of looking at the endings, but this has been on my mind recently quite a bit. Ian says, I'm loving the Stonemaier Games organizer pack that you put out during the fundraiser. And this is the tray variety pack is what I call it. He says, it comes in handy to organize Windmill Valley. That's awesome. Yeah, you can use this organizer pack for any game, not just Stonemaier Games. Ian says, do you plan on keeping that as a regular product? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, if our general rule for any product, right, is if there's enough demand for it, we'll keep it in stock. If it goes out of stock, we'll look at back in stock requests on our web store. Always please make those. If you ever see a product on our web store that's out of stock, please enter your email for a back in stock notification. We won't pester you. We'll just let you know if it's back in stock. And even if we use that data quite a bit. It's really, really helpful data for us to have. Similar to how our demographic survey that I'll send out next week is really helpful data. It really does shape decisions that we make at Stonemaier Games to better serve you. So if you have 2 minutes next Wednesday when I send out the e-newsletter, I would really, really appreciate it if you fill out this year's demographic survey. Anthony says, I'm excited to play Vantage and see its final components. When I read in your designer's diary that it would have books, it was mind-blowing. Yeah, it does have several books, a book for each different action that you can, or action type that you can take in the game. And even though it's a lot of text overall, whenever you take an action in the game, the book reveals the cost of the action and the result of the action, but it's only like 1 or 2 sentences of text. So I think it's you'll see the books and you'll be like, oh, wow, this is a lot of reading. But whenever you take a turn, it's very, very little reading. I designed that on purpose. I wanted players to kind of quickly move through a turn in a pretty smooth way where they're not waiting for a long paragraph of text to be read to them. Mark says he joined the BGG Secret Santa this year and his target wanted Wormspan, one of the games on his wish list. Thanks to Joe for helping complete the transaction and send the game to Michigan to his target. Thank you, Mark, for celebrating Joe. And yeah, this is a good occasion. I'll pause for a second. I'm glad to hear that, Mark, and I'm glad you're having fun with the Secret Santa. But I just wanted to say that I'm really grateful to all of you. Like, very, very grateful. I appreciate those of you who show up at these live casts, who watch, who listen, who sometimes ask questions or make comments. It really does mean a lot to me that you join these conversations. The whole reason that I started this company and do what I do at this company is to try to serve you, to try to bring joy to your tabletop or to your house, your home, your family, your friends. That is my goal every day and every moment of every day. I don't always succeed at that, but it's what I try to do. And so I just thank you for being here. Thank you for participating in Stonemaier Games and however you choose to participate in the way that's right for you. I'm grateful for you. Happy Thanksgiving to you. I'm not closing out the conversation yet, but I just wanted to say that. And you'll also see I have a blog post tomorrow where I share that gratitude, both for you and for a lot of other people that have a huge impact on Stonemaier Games. Any company like Stonemaier Games is not just one person. It's not just my coworkers either. It's a lot of people who help out in a wide variety of ways. And one that I want to highlight real briefly is our lawyer, Scott, who Scott is, I don't know the full details, but I think Scott is having maybe a major medical issue right now. And my thoughts are with him, so he's a really good guy. So if your thoughts can go out to Scott a little bit over Thanksgiving, I really appreciate that. Nicole also asked about Thanksgiving meals. I know she says, I know your food preferences have changed over the years. So what would your perfect Thanksgiving dinner look like? Well, I really do like this dish, this mushroom walnut puff pastry Wellington dish. So that would definitely be on the table. Megan's sister-in-law, Alex, she makes a really delicious cranberry dish. If you think of a kind of a classic American Thanksgiving, there's this gelatinous blob of cranberry on the table that I never really loved all that much, but Alex makes it fresh with fresh cranberries. There's a lot of orange juice in it. It's really, really delicious. So that would be on the table. There would probably be a chocolate pie of some sort on the table because I love chocolate. And there would be something green. I think Thanksgiving dinners often make it, they don't have a lot of green on the table. Maybe there's some like token green beans or asparagus, but I'd love something fresh and green on the table as well at a Thanksgiving dinner. Probably a few other things. Actually, I really like a rich gravy with mashed potatoes. So I'd probably have that on the table as well. What about you, Nicole? Is there any key ingredient, a key element that you'd want on your table over Thanksgiving? Chet says, since you mentioned your current web store sales have been going on for months, not sale. I guess our products are on. Some products on our web store we discount because we're selling them directly. We don't need to sell them at full MSRP on our web store. Certain products. That's what I'm talking about here. But Chad says, how do you decide when to offer a game at a sale price beyond launch week? Yeah, that's a good question. I think just in general, we look at part of it is we look at how certain games are selling. If there's a certain game that is not selling as well, we might discount it a little bit just on an ongoing basis to encourage sales. But in general, the whole concept of MSRP is, I don't know, it's a big topic basically, but it's designed around selling games through retail. And retail is a really important channel for us to sell games. But when we sell games on our web store, our margins are pretty good. They're pretty healthy. And so for us to have a sustainable level of profitability from the things that we sell in our web store, we don't necessarily need to sell them at full MSRP. It's one of the reasons that we have the champion program. If you're Stonemaier champion, you get a 20% off discount on everything that you buy on our web store. So that is part of that equation. And And the advantage that local stores still have over a web store, they'll always have this, is that they don't have to ship anything. And so whenever you go to our web store, there's a flat $10 shipping rate that you have to pay if you want to get anything from our web store. So retailers will always have that advantage over our web store. Really, it's a game by game decision on an ongoing basis. I don't often change the prices on our web store. The MSRP stays the same. I don't often change the discounted price. And if there is a discounted price, it's often pretty small. But if there is, just in general, if there's a product that that we have healthy margins on and we'd like to move more copies of it, then we often offer it at a little bit of a discount. And even some products that we sell pretty well on an ongoing basis, our margins are healthy on the web store. And even with the Champion discount accounting for that, we don't necessarily need to sell everything at full MSRP on our web store. Yeah, that's the general idea there. So the question was asked earlier about the idea of when you're creating something, a new game, how do you get over the fear that someone else has created or is creating something similar? And Aaron says their way of overcoming the fear of creating something too similar is to remind myself of the fact that you can tell two people to each go off on their own and make Star Wars. I like that, Aaron. I realize I'm pretty far behind on comments. Let me scroll through and try to get some questions in case I missed anything here. Let's see. Mark says, have I joined the BGG Secret Santa before or thinking about joining? I've never done it. No, I've never done the BGG Secret Santa. Gifts are not my love language. In fact, I have my gift guide that I recently filmed is about love languages of giving, and gifts are not really my love language. Oh, and here's the second half of Aaron's comment. When both parties finish, you'll have two very different takes on Star Wars. Everyone brings their own personal preferences and history, and that will always result in something ultimately unique. I do hear, so hopefully you can't hear this too badly on the microphone right now. I hear some yard work that just started outside. So I'll try to wrap this up in a few minutes. Eric says, what's the chocolate of the day? You know, we're going to one of my favorite ice cream stores later today. So I'll definitely get some chocolate ice cream there. Honey Lady mentions honey. I do love honey in general as part of my pescatarian diet. I see some comments about food here. So yeah, I'm so far behind on comments. I'm going to scroll through and look for some questions right now. Here we go. Chad says, has playtesting Vantage Solo inspired you to play other Stonemaier games solo prior to launch? Yeah, ever since COVID, I playtest games kind of two-handed. I'll play. I don't play with the solo mode, and there is actually no solo mode in Vantage. You just play. But I generally now do playtest games. One of the ways that I playtest games is solo two-handed. George says, for a web store idea, when you add an out-of-stock item to your wish list, you're prompted to receive a back-in-stock email. Related, I never got back-in-stock emails for some promo realms that were restocked. That's not ideal, George. I appreciate you sharing that. Whenever we restock an item, we should be sending a back-in-stock notification to everyone who's requested it. So perhaps there is a glitch in the system happening there. So I appreciate you sharing that, and we'll definitely look into that just in case there's something going on there. Thanks for letting me know. It's supposed to happen that way. It's not automated. We have to actually send the email, but it should happen. I do see some people commenting on lifestyle games. Steven says, as a well-known game designer, do you find that most people, when you attend a board game playing convention, respect that you were there to play and not necessarily there to be pitched to? I appreciate you asking that, Steven. I would say that most people don't care or don't know who I am, which is rather nice. When I go to a game convention, I just want to play games to people. That's my goal, just as any other attendee would. Every now and then someone does try to pitch to me, and I generally don't love that. I don't love kind of being cornered and pitched to, and I think oftentimes people can tell that's happening, or hopefully they can tell that's happening. There's my mom in the background there. Hi, Mom. Let's see here. Trishul says, what's the usual percentage of cost split for a publisher among various parties for bringing out a game, such as artist, designer, developers, printer, shipping, distributors? The cost split. The percentages change quite a bit. For an artist, we usually budget around $20,000 to $30,000. For our graphic designer, it's usually around $20,000. Developers I am the developer for our game. I'm the lead developer, so it's more of a playtesting cost. Is usually in maybe around I don't know, $5,000 for playtesters. Printing the game, usually the sunk costs for printing a game are pretty low. It's the ongoing costs that add up. Freight shipping, that depends on the game. Usually it ranges between $1 and maybe $3 per game for freight shipping. And what am I missing here? The designer gets a royalty payment. So that's the $10,000 advance against royalties, and then the royalties on an ongoing basis. Oh, Flo says that their girlfriend and Flo went on a cruise to southern Norway last year, and we absolutely loved it. So we decided to join the BGG cruise to Norway next year. That's awesome. I'm so excited about that. Well, I look forward to hopefully playing some games with you there. That's really cool. And maybe you'll have some good tips for us while we're stopping at those different places along Norway. Let's see. Again, I'm just scrolling through. I realize how far behind I am on questions. So I'm just scrolling through looking for a few, see if there's any other questions left today. Let's see. Asa says, the holidays are a big shopping season. I know you release only a few new games each year. How do you decide what time of year to release new games? Generally, it's when they're ready is when we decide to release them. So that is almost entirely independent of what time of year it is. We do, when a game is ready, sometimes we do have a little bit of flexibility in terms of exactly when we decide to launch it on our web store and then release it to retail. Sometimes that ends up being planned around conventions a little bit or around different shipping seasons. But usually in general, it's just a matter of the game is ready now. It's in our fulfillment centers. Let's launch it and release it in retail, I don't know, around 5 to 7 weeks later. That's usually the answer. Oh, Jordan, thank you for this lovely comment. I've seen some very nice, lovely comments, but Jordan says, I usually catch these live casts the day after you post. I appreciate your dedication to equity and your vulnerability. Thank you, Jordan, for saying that. It's rare to see men be so vulnerable, and it's something I admire about you. Yeah, I really appreciate that. I think, yeah, I'll just say thank you. I agree that I think that's important too, and I try to be real with you all here on these live casts. Chad says, did you listen to any books on your drive? We actually ended up flying, and we did listen to a book. Megan and I listened to a book together. I'll leave the comment up so people can see. We listened to, on the flight, we listened to a part of a book called Remarkably Bright Creatures. And it's a fiction book that's partially about some people. We're not deep enough in the book that we really know what's going to happen with these people. Kind of slice of life right now. And an octopus. That is the remarkably bright creature in the book so far. So yeah, really enjoying that. Julio says, what's a game you've been excited to share with people? Well, I mentioned earlier, I'll hold it up again. So one of them, I really have enjoyed my first few plays of Caution Signs. It's a lighter game. It's a good holiday gathering style game. Last year, I raved on, and this year too, about Blob Party. And I think Caution Signs is this year's Blob Party. So that's one that I'm really enjoying and recommending to people. Justin says, in the spirit of the holiday, thank you, Jamey, for how transparent you are with the business and all the design lessons. Thank you, Justin, for saying that. He plans to crack open a crowdfunder strategy guide, my book about basically how to serve people, how to serve customers, how to serve backers. It is that is the theme, the spirit of the book. Thank you, Justin. I hope you enjoy the book. Chad says, are we going to hit any disc golf courses in the area where we are right now with my family? I think we will. If the weather holds up, it's going to get a little cold, but I hope so. Chris says, I'm making his own game, and you've been the best, most positive resource. Oh, thank you, Chris, for saying that. That's so kind of you to say. I can't thank you enough. I realize most of my favorite games are Stonemaier. Wingspan, Red Rising, Between Two Castles. That's awesome, Chris. Nice intersection between a few different games there, and I hope your game design process is going well. Oh, cool. Honey Lady has heard of Remarkably Bright Creatures. That's great. Yeah, we're really enjoying it so far. Trishul says, did the compact game boxes in Japan inspire you to consider similar packaging for your games, potentially at the cost of a game's presence on shelves and in stores? I think in general, I don't know if Japan has definitely made me think about this a little bit more, but for a while, I've been trying to think about this, how to make game boxes smaller. I think a lot of our game boxes are a very similar size, and I think generally we pack the box with a lot of stuff, and maybe we leave a little bit of room for expansions. But there are examples. In fact, Red Rising. Red Rising was mentioned a little bit a few seconds ago by Chris. I think Red Rising's box is just too big. It's a beautiful box, but it's bigger than it needs to be. We made it that big so that if someone wanted to upgrade with the special edition components, they could. But yeah, it's definitely on my mind that I am less. I think there was a time where people wanted boxes to all to be around that Ticket to Ride box size, and I think that has changed over the years. And I'm trying to adapt to that change as well. See a few other questions here. Here's a fun question. Spaceship Lugo says, favorite underdog story in board games? Underdog story. That's a great question. Whether it's a character in a game, or I think of it more as about the designers, the publishers. You know, as someone who started, I started Stonemaier Games from scratch back in 2011 when I started working on viticulture. So I am always rooting for anyone who is starting from scratch, who is seeking to bring joy to tabletops worldwide. That's our mission at Stonemaier Games, but I see a lot of new publishers and new designers trying to do that through their designs and their creations, and I am always rooting for them. I don't know if I have a specific underdog story in mind right now, but the new creators pop up all the time on crowdfunding and beyond, new designers beyond, and new creators on Kickstarter and crowdfunding GameFound. And while I'm also rooting for any company that seeks to serve their customers and bring joy to tabletops, I especially root for those new creators. All right, I stayed a little bit longer than I intended to. Actually, here's one other question. Here's a good question. I'll try to end on this one. Greg says, in your mission statement, you say that you seek to improve the environmental sustainability and accessibility. What have been some of the challenges you've experienced in this area? Greg, that's a good question, because there's actually one challenge that we faced with Wingspan specifically that was really interesting to me. So I mentioned this in brief, and then head on out for the holiday here. But so for a while, Wingspan had some plastic bags, and it had a plastic tray and some plastic holders for components. And it was a lot of plastic, and plastic it's bad for multiple reasons. It's bad because of the resources it uses, the non-sustainable resources it uses to make the plastic. And then that plastic is going to be around forever. And even plastic that we keep in our games, like shrink wrap we throw away right away, that's just inherently bad. But plastic trays, even plastic trays that remain in the game, we use them on an ongoing basis. None of us are going to be here in 300 years from now, but that plastic still will be here. So that's the general idea of why plastic isn't great. So for a while, we invested heavily in changing those plastic trays in Wingspan to this sugarcane pulp, much more sustainable material. That it costs more to make. It costs more to make the mold. It costs more to make the tray itself. But we found, Greg, this is the interesting thing to me, we found that people's perception of it was that we had gone cheap, that we had made a cheaper component that wasn't as useful, or didn't look as pretty as the plastic one. So after hearing time after time that people thought that it was cheaper and less useful, people were throwing it away, they weren't using it, we decided to go back to the plastic tray. Which was honestly a little disheartening. It was a decision that I made, so I take ownership over that decision. But it was a little disheartening that customers would assume that the thing that definitely looked more basic would assume that was cheaper to make, even though it was significantly more expensive to make than the plastic tray. It was a good reminder that we have to balance the perception of quality even while looking for eco-friendly components. And recently, I will say, Greg, that in the Lord of the Rings game, the new Lord of the Rings game, Duel for Middle-earth, they use a similar cardboard pulp tray in the game. And I think it works better than our Wingspan tray because it's the entire insert. It isn't a tray that you're removing. It's just the insert in the box. And I think it works really well. But I guarantee you that thing costs more for them to make than a plastic version of that tray. So I'm curious what others think if they've played Duel for Middle-earth, if they've even noticed that, or if they're bothered by it at all. I think they did a great job with it, and I really like that they did that. So I think in the future, if we ever need to make like a full tray like that again, It is significantly more expensive. Like, you'd be surprised by how much more expensive it is than the cheap plastic version, even if it doesn't feel cheap. But I think it is something we might look into, similar to what they did for Duel for Middle Earth. Let's see. I see a lot of holiday wishes here. Thank you all for joining me today. Again, I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful that you popped in to join me today for this holiday week special, this Thanksgiving week special. And I hope if you're in the U.S. and you celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope you have a wonderful week with people that you love and good food and good games. And if you're not in the U.S., I hope the same to you. Yeah, take care. I'll see you next week for newsletter week for our annual demographic survey and more. Take care. Bye.